Clarion University Hospital's new premium blood donation center gleamed like a crystal shard against the dilapidated brick buildings surrounding it. The facility stood as an island of sterile modernity in the coastal city's struggling downtown, its polished glass exterior reflecting the gray November skies of late 2032. Dr. Lemin Chow adjusted his lab coat as he approached the hematology laboratory for the first time. After years abroad conducting research, returning home felt both familiar and foreign. The hallway leading to his new domain smelled of disinfectant and ambition, the former from the hospital's rigorous cleaning protocols, the latter emanating from Chow himself. "The equipment arrived last week," Hospital Director Nguyen said, his voice betraying a hint of pride as he unlocked the reinforced laboratory door. State-of-the-art spectral analyzers, quantum-enhanced microscopes, and the most advanced centrifuges available. The board expects significant returns on this investment. Dr. Chow. Chow nodded, understanding the unspoken message. In a city racked by economic crisis, the hospital's premium blood donation program represented both a financial lifeline and a moral compromise. The wealthy paid for enhanced screening, while the poor received compensation for their high-quality donations. A system that made Chow uncomfortable, but one he had reluctantly joined. "I'll begin processing the initial volunteer samples tomorrow," Chow replied, running his fingers along the gleaming surface of the quantum spectroscope. "The protocols are set for comprehensive analysis, beyond the standard panels. Just ensure we have actionable results by month's end," Director Nguyen said before leaving. "The board doesn't fund curiosity. Dr. Chow, they fund outcomes." The first set of blood samples arrived at precisely 8:00 a.m. the next morning, delivered by head nurse Ha Lin. Her efficiency was matched only by her skepticism about the new program. 12 premium donors and 18 compensated volunteers, she said, placing the rack of vials on his workstation. "The premium clients expect detailed reports on their exceptional blood quality." Her tone made clear what she thought of such vanity. "Thank you, Nurse Lin," Chow replied, already preparing the first batch for the spectroscope. "I'll process them all equally." "Be careful with these machines," she added, glancing at the array of equipment. "They cost more than what most people in this city earn in a decade." After she left, Chow methodically began his work. The first 10 samples showed nothing unexpected. Typical variations in plasma protein concentrations, unremarkable cellular morphology, standard electrolyte levels. The routine continued until sample 17, a compensated volunteer from the dock workers district. The spectroscope emitted a high-pitched whine as the analysis began, its display flickering with unusual energy readings. Chow frowned, recalibrating the machine before trying again. The second attempt produced the same result, wavelength patterns he had never encountered, atomic signatures that defied classification. "Impossible," he muttered, transferring a droplet to the quantum microscope. Under the highest magnification, the blood revealed something extraordinary. Scattered throughout the plasma, minuscule particles glinted with metallic luminescence, vibrating at frequencies that shouldn't exist in biological systems. Chow worked through the night, analyzing and reanalyzing sample 17. By morning, he had confirmed the presence of an unidentified element, one that appeared fundamentally unstable at the quantum level, yet somehow maintained coherence within the human bloodstream. When Nurse Lin arrived the next morning, she found him still hunched over the instruments, dark circles under his eyes. "You look terrible," she observed, placing a cup of coffee beside him. "Find something interesting?" "I need more samples," Chow said, ignoring her question. "From different demographic groups, hospital staff, university students, more dock workers, as diverse as possible." Lin studied his haggard expression. "You found something." "Maybe," he hedged. "Or maybe there's contamination in our equipment. Either way, I need more data." Over the next week, Chow expanded his testing to 50 additional volunteers. The mysterious element appeared in 37% of samples, with varying concentrations. More disturbing were the patterns emerging. Higher concentrations in dock workers and fishermen. Lower, but still present in university students, almost non-existent in hospital administrative staff. When the quantum spectroscope began registering unexplainable quantum fluctuations during analysis of high-concentration samples, Chow knew he needed specialized help. He contacted Dr. Pham Hu Tri, a quantum physicist at United University whose unorthodox theories had earned him both ridicule and a small cult following in scientific circles. "You're claiming to have found a new element in human blood?" Tri asked when they met in the university's deserted cafeteria. His skepticism was evident, but curiosity gleamed in his eyes. "I'm claiming to have found something I can't identify." Chow clarified, sliding a flash drive across the table, something that shouldn't exist in biological systems. The spectral analysis defies conventional elemental categorization. Tri examined the data on his tablet, his expression shifting from doubt to intrigue. "These quantum signatures, they're similar to theoretical patterns in extreme stellar environments. Not something you should find in a human being." "Exactly." Chow leaned forward. "I need access to your super-resolution quantum microscope. The hospital equipment isn't designed for this level of analysis." Tri stroked his beard thoughtfully. "If this is real, it could rewrite our understanding of human biology and elemental physics simultaneously." "If it's real," Chow emphasized, "that's what we need to determine." As their research progressed in secret, strange incidents began occurring among the blood donors. 3 dock workers who had provided samples reported episodes of dizziness followed by vivid hallucinations. A university student collapsed during an exam, claiming she could see through walls moments before losing consciousness. Meanwhile, Chow faced mounting pressure from hospital administration. His routine reports showed deliberately normalized results, omitting any mention of the anomalous element. Director Nguyen, however, grew suspicious of Chow's excessive lab hours and resource usage. "Your preliminary findings are due tomorrow," Nguyen reminded him during an impromptu laboratory inspection. "The board is eager to see what their investment has yielded." "Of course," Chow replied, discreetly covering his notes. "Though I should mention that comprehensive analysis requires more time than initially estimated." Nguyen's eyes narrowed. "Time is money, Dr. Chow, and money is something this hospital desperately needs." He glanced meaningfully at the humming equipment. "We didn't bring you back from overseas to pursue academic curiosities." After Nguyen left, Nurse Lin emerged from the supply closet where she'd been taking inventory. "He's been asking questions about your research," she warned. "And he's not the only one. There's talk about unauthorized testing protocols." "Thank you for telling me," Chow said, running a hand through his disheveled hair. "How much time do you think I have before they intervene?" "Days, not weeks," she replied. "Whatever you're doing, you need to either report it officially or find conclusive evidence quickly." That night, Chow and Tri made a breakthrough using the university's experimental quantum microscope. The strange element wasn't just present in the blood, it was actively interacting with cellular structures, creating quantum entanglements between normally isolated biological systems. "It's like watching a star being born inside a test tube," Tri whispered, his face illuminated by the microscope's display. "These particles are maintaining quantum coherence at body temperature, something that should be theoretically impossible." "But what is it?" Chow pressed. "And how did it get into human blood?" Tri's expression grew somber. "I have a hypothesis, but it sounds crazy even to me." "At this point, I'm open to crazy. These quantum signatures match theoretical models of supernova remnants, specifically exotic matter formed during the collapse of massive stars. The atomic structure resembles something that might form in the milliseconds before a neutron star stabilizes." Chow stared at him. "You're suggesting people have star fragments in their blood?" "I'm suggesting," Tri said carefully, "that whatever this element is, It didn't originate on Earth. The question is, how did it get into the human bloodstream? And why does it concentrate in specific populations? The answer came unexpectedly the next day, when an emergency case arrived at the hospital, a dock worker suffering from extreme radiation-like symptoms. The man's skin showed unusual burns, and his blood work revealed cellular degradation patterns similar to acute radiation exposure. When Chow tested his blood, the concentration of the mysterious element was nearly 5 times higher than any previous sample. He worked on the old shipping pier. Nurse Lin informed him after checking the patient's records. The one near the meteor impact site from 15 years ago. What meteor impact? Chow asked, suddenly alert. Before your time here, she explained. A small meteorite struck the ocean about 2 kilometers offshore. The authorities recovered most of it, but fragments washed up for years afterward. Some locals collected them as souvenirs or sold them to tourists. The pieces clicked together in Chow's mind. He immediately contacted Tri, who confirmed the possibility. A meteorite containing supernova remnants could have gradually leached exotic matter into the local environment, eventually entering the food chain and, subsequently, the bloodstream of local residents. As they delved deeper into their investigation, the hospital board grew increasingly impatient with Chow's evasiveness. Director Nguyen finally confronted him directly, demanding immediate results or termination. Whatever you're hiding ends now, Nguyen declared. Either present your findings to the board tomorrow or clear out your lab. Backed into a corner, Chow made a desperate decision. That night, he and Tri attempted to isolate a higher concentration of the element for definitive analysis. They extracted plasma from the dock worker's blood sample and subjected it to extreme electromagnetic fields, hoping to force the particles to reveal their true nature. What happened next would change everything. The concentrated sample reacted violently to the electromagnetic stimulus. The particles began resonating at exponentially increasing frequencies, generating a miniature plasma storm within the containment field. Alarms blared as radiation levels spiked throughout the laboratory. "Shut it down!" Chow shouted over the cacophony. But it was too late. The containment field collapsed, releasing a pulse of exotic energy that shorted out every piece of equipment in the lab and shattered the reinforced glass partitions. In the chaotic aftermath, as emergency protocols activated and security personnel rushed to the scene, Chow and Tri made a stunning discovery amidst the wreckage. The element hadn't just reacted, it had transformed, briefly creating quantum conditions mimicking the heart of a star before destabilizing completely. The hospital was locked down, the contamination protocols implemented, and both researchers placed under quarantine. News of the incident leaked to the press. Sensationalized headlines about cosmic blood and star people spreading panic throughout the city. The hospital board attempted damage control, publicly dismissing Chow's research as irresponsible speculation while privately scrambling to understand its implications. Director Nguyen was particularly vocal in his condemnation, positioning himself as the voice of responsible science against Chow's dangerous experimentations. Isolated in quarantine, Chow received an unexpected visitor 3 days after the incident, a representative from the International Medical Council, a global organization overseeing breakthrough medical research. "Dr. Le Min Cho," the representative said, "your discovery has captured attention at the highest levels. We believe this element could revolutionize our understanding of human biology and physics." "Or destroy it," Chow replied grimly. "The element is fundamentally unstable in high concentrations. It could trigger cellular breakdown or worse." "Yes," the representative agreed. "But our preliminary analysis of your data suggests another possibility. The quantum properties might be harnessed for targeted cellular regeneration, potentially a breakthrough in cancer treatment." Chow looked up sharply. "You've been analyzing my data? How?" "Let's just say not everyone on your hospital board shares Director Nguyen's perspective." The representative smiled thinly. "The council is prepared to offer you a global research position with unlimited resources to continue your work safely. And the people already carrying this element in their blood, the dock workers, the fishermen, the students, they would be study participants, compensated generously. The representative's tone remained professional. Your research could benefit humanity immeasurably. Dr. Chow, as Chow considered the offer, Nurse Lin managed to slip him a message. The dock worker patient had died. His cells apparently transformed into microscopic fusion reactors that literally burned him from within. 5 more cases had been identified throughout the city. The choice before Chow was clear yet impossible. Pursue the element's potential for healing, knowing it might lead to weaponization, or focus on neutralizing it, potentially sacrificing a revolutionary medical breakthrough. As he stood at the quarantine room window, watching the coastal city lights flicker in the distance, Chow realized the true weight of discovery, not just in finding something new, but in deciding what humanity should do with it. Tomorrow, he would give the International Medical Council his answer. Tonight, he watched the city where fragments of dying stars had found their way into human veins, and wondered if those same stars had always been part of us, waiting to be awakened. Part 2. The following week unfolded like a fever dream for Chow. Released from quarantine, but suspended from hospital duties, he found himself in a sterile conference room at the International Medical Council's hastily established local headquarters, a converted luxury hotel overlooking the harbor. The element's provisional designation is Stellarium, explained Dr. Amara Singh, the council's lead physicist. Her holographic presentation showed rotating models of the element's quantum structure. We're detecting it in approximately 22% of the city's population, with concentrations varying significantly. And the health implications? Chow asked, still haunted by the dock workers' fate. Mixed, replied Dr. Henrik Larsen, the medical director. 6 fatalities confirmed, all with extremely high concentrations. However, 43 individuals with moderate levels show enhanced cellular regeneration and increased metabolic efficiency. The implications were staggering. Stellarium appeared to integrate with human biology in ways that defied conventional understanding, destructive at high concentrations but potentially beneficial at lower levels. The question remains, Singh continued, how did a supernova remnant end up in human blood? The meteorite theory explains initial contamination, but not why it concentrates in some individuals more than others. Genetic predisposition, suggested Larsen. Some people's cellular structures may naturally attract or retain these particles. Chow had been silent, studying the data scrolling across his tablet. There's another possibility, he finally said. What if it was always there? The room fell quiet. Explain, Singh prompted. Every element heavier than iron formed in stellar explosions. Chow elaborated. Our bodies contain stardust, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, elements forged in ancient supernovae. What if stellarium is simply an unstable variant that normally degrades before we can detect it? But something in this particular meteorite preserved it in an unusually stable form. The team exchanged glances. The hypothesis was elegant in its simplicity, yet profound in its implications. Humans might naturally contain trace amounts of super-heavy, unstable elements that typically degrade too quickly for detection. As the Council's research progressed, Chow found himself increasingly at odds with their methodology. The focus had shifted almost exclusively to stellarium's potential applications, with minimal attention to the affected population's welfare. These people aren't lab rats, he argued during a particularly heated meeting. The dock workers showing elevated concentrations need treatment, not observation. Treatment for what, exactly? Countered Larsen. Many are exhibiting enhanced immunity and accelerated healing. Are those conditions we should treat? Until we understand the long-term effects, we're gambling with their lives. Chow insisted. The debate was interrupted by an urgent message. 3 university students had been admitted to Clarion Hospital with symptoms similar to the deceased dock worker, elevated body temperature, metallic skin discoloration, and neurological abnormalities. Chow rushed to the hospital, where Nurse Lin awaited him at the isolation ward entrance. "They won't let me back in the lab," he explained apologetically. "What's their condition?" "Deteriorating," she replied grimly. "Blood tests show stellarium concentrations spiking over the past 6 hours. Director Nguyen is handling the case personally." "Nguyen has no expertise in this area," Chow protested. "No, but he has authority." Lin's expression hardened, and he's instructed staff to deny you access to the patients or their test results. Chow's frustration mounted. "These students need specialized care. The council has protocols." "The council isn't in charge here," Lin interrupted. "But perhaps you could speak with Dr. Try. He's been consulting on the cases despite the director's objections." Chow found Try in the university physics laboratory, surrounded by holographic models of stellarium's atomic structure. "The students were roommates," Try explained without preamble. "All 3 participated in your initial study. All 3 reported collecting glowing stones from the beach near the old pier last month. Direct exposure to concentrated meteorite fragments," Chow realized. "That would explain the accelerated accumulation." Try nodded grimly. "They were using the fragments as decorative paperweights, essentially bathing themselves in exotic radiation for weeks." "How bad?" "Their blood samples show stellarium actively binding with hemoglobin molecules. It's not just floating in the plasma anymore, it's integrating into the cellular structure." Chow paced the laboratory. "We need to develop some kind of chelation therapy, something that can bind to stellarium and help the body eliminate it." "It's not that simple." Try projected a simulation showing stellarium particles quantum entangled with cellular components. "The element isn't just in their blood, it's becoming part of them at the quantum level." The situation deteriorated rapidly over the following days. One student died, his body temperature reaching nearly 108 degrees before his organs failed. The remaining 2 stabilized but remained in critical condition, their blood now visibly luminescent under ultraviolet light. Meanwhile, the council expanded testing throughout the city, revealing stellarium's presence in the groundwater near the meteor impact site. The contamination had spread further than anyone initially suspected, creating a gradient of exposure throughout the coastal communities. Public panic escalated as information leaked. Blood donation centers were overwhelmed with people demanding testing. Conspiracy theories flourished online. The government had engineered the meteorite. Alien DNA was infiltrating humans. A select few were evolving into star beings. Amid the chaos, Chow noticed a disturbing pattern in the data. Children and elderly individuals showed almost no stellarium accumulation, regardless of exposure. Something about their physiology appeared resistant to integration. Working with a small team of council scientists and against Director Nguyen's explicit orders, Chow secured samples from donors across age groups. The results were consistent. Stellarium concentrations peaked in individuals between 20 and 40 years old, with dramatic drop-offs in younger and older populations. "It's targeting people in their reproductive prime," Chow observed during a late-night analysis session with Try and Dr. Singh. "Almost as if it's selecting for propagation," Singh finished the thought, "like it wants to be passed to the next generation." The implication was chilling. If stellarium could influence reproductive cells, it might become a permanent feature of human biology in affected bloodlines. As they grappled with this possibility, a breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Nurse Lin contacted Chow with news that one of the remaining students had begun showing signs of recovery. "Her stellarium levels are dropping," Lin reported over a secure channel. "And she's the only patient receiving experimental treatment protocol 16. "What's in protocol 16? Chow asked, unfamiliar with the designation. "It was ordered by someone on the council, not Nguyen's team," Lin explained. "Some kind of magnetic resonance therapy combined with a synthetic enzyme." Chow immediately contacted Singh, who confirmed authorizing the experimental treatment based on theoretical models. The enzyme mimics a protein found in prenatal development, she explained. Combined with specific magnetic frequencies, it appears to disrupt the quantum entanglement between stellarium and cellular structures. The treatment showed promise, but time was running out. Reports of new cases surged daily, and the hospital's isolation ward reached capacity. More troubling, Chow discovered that Director Nguyen had begun quietly transferring patients with high stellarium concentrations to a secure facility operated by a private research corporation. He's selling access to the patients, Lin confirmed after investigating the transfers. Multiple pharmaceutical companies are bidding for exclusive research rights. The ethical violation was staggering, but Chow's options for intervention were limited. His reputation had been systematically undermined by hospital administration, his research findings partially classified by the council, and his access to patients restricted by Nguyen's directives. In desperation, Chow turned to the last option he had hoped to avoid: public disclosure. Working with Tri, he compiled a comprehensive data package. Stellarium's properties, its distribution patterns, the developing treatment protocols, and evidence of Nguyen's patient exploitation. "Are you certain about this?" Tri asked as they prepared to upload the information to global medical networks. "The council will see it as a violation of your agreement. Your career. My career isn't worth more than these people's lives," Chow replied, initiating the transfer. "The world needs to know what's happening. Other coastal cities near meteorite impact sites could be experiencing similar contamination without recognizing it." The disclosure had immediate consequences. Within hours, international news outlets were reporting on cosmic blood contamination and star element evolution. Clarion Hospital was surrounded by protesters demanding transparency in treatment. The council publicly distanced itself from Chow's unauthorized disclosure, while privately racing to implement Treatment Protocol 16 on a larger scale. Director Nguyen held an emergency press conference denouncing Chow as a scientific opportunist, spreading dangerous misinformation. His performance might have been convincing had a group of affected dock workers not interrupted, their skin visibly glowing in the television camera's lights. 3 days after the disclosure, Chow was summoned to an emergency session of the International Medical Council's Ethics Committee. He expected censure, possibly even criminal charges for violating confidentiality agreements. Instead, he found the committee chamber filled with representatives from global health organizations, quantum physics institutes, and space agencies. "Dr. Le Min Chow," began the committee chair, "your methods were unorthodox and potentially reckless. However, the situation appears to warrant extraordinary measures." A representative from the Global Health Authority rose. "Similar stellarium concentrations have been identified in coastal populations near 3 other meteorite impact sites worldwide. Your disclosure likely saved thousands of lives by accelerating identification and treatment." "Which brings us to the purpose of this meeting," continued the chair. "We are establishing a dedicated stellarium research initiative. Given your unique insight into this phenomenon, we're offering you leadership of the medical division." Chow was stunned. "After everything that's happened, you still want me involved?" "Precisely because of everything that's happened," replied the chair. "You've demonstrated that your primary concern is patient welfare, not career advancement or scientific prestige. Those are exactly the qualities needed for this sensitive work." The offer represented everything Chow had ever wanted professionally: resources, recognition, the opportunity to pursue groundbreaking research. Yet he hesitated, remembering the dock worker who had died in isolation, the students whose bodies had become unwitting laboratories, the communities still facing uncertain futures. "I have conditions," he stated firmly. "Complete transparency with affected populations, treatment availability regardless of economic status, and ethical oversight by community representatives, not just scientific authorities." The committee exchanged glances, clearly uncomfortable with such unusual demands. Finally, the chair nodded. "Unconventional, but given the circumstances, Acceptable. Welcome aboard. Research Director Chow. In the months that followed, treatment protocol. 16 evolved into a standardized therapy, successfully reducing stellarium concentrations in most patients. The few who didn't respond, primarily those with the highest exposure levels, presented a more complex challenge. These individuals, dubbed stellar integrators by the research team, exhibited profound physiological changes. Their cellular structures had fundamentally incorporated stellarium, creating biological systems that operated partly through quantum processes. They weren't dying, but they weren't entirely human anymore, either. Their metabolic efficiency is astonishing, Chow explained during a presentation to the initiative's governing board. They require minimal caloric intake, demonstrate exceptional tissue regeneration, and process oxygen with unprecedented efficiency. And the cognitive effects? Asked a neurological specialist. Chow hesitated. Variable. Some report enhanced sensory perception and intuitive understanding of complex systems. Others experience disorienting perceptual shifts, seeing energy fields, perceiving time non-linearly. In simple terms, interjected Dr. Singh, they're experiencing reality differently than we do. Their neural processes are partially quantum entangled, allowing information processing that defies conventional understanding. The implications extended far beyond medicine. If stellarium integration could be controlled, it might represent an evolutionary leap for humanity or an existential threat, depending on one's perspective. As the research progressed, Chow found himself increasingly drawn to the fundamental question that had first emerged in his laboratory. Was stellarium truly foreign to human biology? Or was it awakening something that had always been present? Working with Tri and a team of evolutionary biologists, Chow began analyzing ancient DNA samples from archaeological sites worldwide. The results were startling. Trace evidence of stellarium-like structures appeared throughout human evolutionary history, typically in isolated populations near known meteorite impact craters. It's been happening for thousands of years, Tri concluded after reviewing the findings. Periodic exposures to cosmic materials, subtle integrations into the genome, most likely lost again through dilution over generations. Until now, Chow added, modern human population density, combined with industrial activities disrupting impact sites, has created unprecedented exposure levels. The question evolved from scientific curiosity to philosophical imperative. If stellarium represented an aspect of cosmic evolution periodically influencing human development, should they continue developing treatments to eliminate it, or protocols to safely integrate it? The ethical dimensions were overwhelming. Enhanced humans with stellarium integration might develop capabilities far beyond current limitations, but at what cost to their connection with unmodified humanity? Would it create a two-tiered species? Was this cosmic element a gift, a threat, or simply another step in humanity's long dance with the stars from which we formed? 1 year after discovering the strange element in Sample 17, Chow stood at the observation window of the initiative's primary research facility, watching as volunteers with stable stellarium integration demonstrated their remarkable abilities. One woman held her hand over a wilted plant, a soft blue glow emanating from her palm as the plant gradually straightened and revitalized. A young man sat in quiet concentration, apparently perceiving the quantum states of objects around him with closed eyes. Nurse Lin, now the initiative's patient advocacy director, joined him at the window. "Still questioning whether you made the right choice?" she asked. "Every day," Chow admitted. "We're approaching a threshold beyond which humanity might become something fundamentally different." "Isn't that what we've always done?" she countered. From the first ancestral humans who controlled fire to the genetic engineers who eliminated hereditary diseases, we've always been becoming something else. Not like this. Chow gestured toward the demonstration room. That woman isn't using technology to heal the plant. She's channeling energy through quantum processes we barely understand. The integration is making her less separate from the universe around her. Maybe separation was always an illusion, Lin suggested. The stars made our elements. Perhaps they're simply reclaiming their children. Chow considered this as he watched the Stellarium integrated volunteers. Tomorrow, the initiative would vote on the future direction of their research, developing advanced integration protocols or focusing exclusively on elimination treatments. As research director, Chow's recommendation would heavily influence the outcome. The most unstable element in the universe had found its way into human blood, and with it came the most fundamental question humanity had ever faced. Should we remain as we are, or become something new? The stars that had forged our elements billions of years ago now offered another gift, or perhaps a Pandora's box of cosmic proportion. As the facility lights dimmed for evening, the integrated volunteers began to glow softly, their stellarium-infused bodies emanating a gentle blue luminescence. They looked simultaneously human and other, earthly beings touched by cosmic fire, their blood carrying fragments of dying stars toward an uncertain future. Chow made his decision. Tomorrow, he would recommend a dual-track approach, continuing treatment for those who wish to remain unmodified while developing safe integration protocols for volunteers willing to explore humanity's potential new frontier. The choice would remain with each individual, as it should. After all, the stars had given us the elements that made us human. Perhaps it was time to acknowledge that we had always been cosmic beings, temporarily bound to Earth but forever connected to the universe that forged us. The unstable element in our blood was simply reminding us who we truly were, children of stars, finally awakening to our cosmic heritage. For better or worse, humanity was about to remember its celestial origins, one glowing blood cell at a time. Part 3. 6 months after the initiative's landmark decision to pursue both treatment and integration research, Chow found himself facing an unexpected crisis. The first generation of fully stabilized stellar integrators, 37 volunteers with carefully balanced stellarium levels, had begun developing abilities that transcended initial projections. It's not just enhanced healing or sensory perception anymore, Dr. Singh reported during an emergency briefing. We're observing manipulations of energy and matter that defy conventional physics. The holographic display showed footage from the monitoring center. An integrator named Miguel, demonstrating the ability to temporarily alter the magnetic properties of metals. A woman named Nadia, who could accelerate plant growth through directed biophoton emissions, most concerning. A young physicist named Kai, who had accidentally created a localized distortion in the electromagnetic field during a moment of emotional distress. They're effectively becoming quantum operators on a macro scale, Tri explained, his expression a mixture of scientific awe and existential concern. The stellarium in their cellular structures is allowing them to influence physical systems through quantum entanglement cascades. In plain language, Chow translated for the non-physicists present. They're developing abilities that would once have been considered impossible or supernatural, and we don't fully understand the mechanisms or limitations. The implications were staggering. Humanity stood at the threshold of a transformation more profound than any in evolutionary history. Not a gradual adaptation over millennia, but an abrupt redefinition of human potential occurring within a single generation. Public reaction to the emerging abilities was predictably polarized. Religious communities variously proclaimed the integrators as blessed, cursed, or harbingers of apocalypse. Scientific institutions scrambled to develop frameworks for understanding and potentially replicating the quantum manipulation abilities. Governments worldwide began implementing registration programs for confirmed integrators, citing public safety concerns while transparently positioning for strategic advantage. Meanwhile, the original meteorite impact site had been transformed into a high-security research facility. Excavations revealed a larger deposit of the space rock than initially estimated, buried beneath sediment on the ocean floor. Analysis confirmed it originated from a particularly unusual supernova, one that had occurred in a binary star system, creating unique conditions for stellarium formation. As the facility's research team worked to understand the meteorite's composition, a disturbing pattern emerged in the surrounding community. Children born to parents with moderate stellarium exposure were manifesting natural integration from birth. Their developing nervous systems apparently optimized for quantum processing. "We're seeing the beginning of speciation," warned Dr. Larson during a closed initiative meeting. "These children aren't just humans with an exotic element in their blood. They're developing fundamentally different neural architectures." "Are you suggesting they're becoming a separate species?" asked a council representative. "I'm suggesting they're becoming the next iteration of our species," Larson clarified. "And the transition is happening orders of magnitude faster than any evolutionary process we've previously documented." For Chow, the situation presented an excruciating ethical dilemma. The integration process was revealing incredible potential for human advancement, from disease resistance to extended lifespan to unprecedented cognitive capabilities. Yet it also threatened to fracture humanity into distinct populations, those who embraced stellarium integration and those who either couldn't access it or rejected it on principle. The crisis point arrived unexpectedly on a stormy evening when the power grid servicing the research facility experienced a catastrophic failure. The backup systems activated immediately, but for 17 crucial seconds, the containment fields around the highest concentration stellarium samples collapsed. The result was a quantum cascade, a chain reaction of particles suddenly freed from artificial stability, seeking equilibrium through the path of least resistance. That path, unfortunately, ran directly through the facility's ventilation system and into the lungs of everyone present. Chow was working late in his office when the emergency alarms activated. By the time he reached the main laboratory, the damage was done. 12 researchers had been exposed to concentrated stellarium vapor, their bodies already showing signs of accelerated integration, skin developing the characteristic metallic luminescence, eyes glowing with internal light. "Initiate emergency protocol, Omega," he ordered, his voice steady despite the chaos. "Full quarantine, immediate administration of stabilization enzymes." But even as the containment procedures activated, Chow recognized the futility. The exposed researchers weren't just contaminated, they were transforming at an unprecedented rate, their bodies adapting to stellarium concentrations far beyond previous thresholds. 3 died within hours, their cellular structures literally burning from within as stellarium particles generated microscopic fusion reactions throughout their tissues. The survivors exhibited something even more alarming: synchronization. Their neural patterns began harmonizing, creating a networked consciousness that operated partly through quantum entanglement. "They're thinking collectively," Try observed as they monitored the survivors' brain activity from the quarantine control center. "Not just communicating, actually sharing consciousness through quantum states." Dr. Singh studied the readings with growing concern. "The entanglement is expanding beyond their immediate proximity. They're connecting with other integrators throughout the region." The implications were immediate and profound. If stellarium integration enabled quantum-entangled consciousness, then every integrator worldwide represented a potential node in an emerging network, a collective intelligence operating through principles humans had barely begun to understand. Within days, the phenomenon spread. Integrators across the globe reported sudden awareness of others like themselves, a sense of connection transcending physical distance. Some described it as a cosmic chorus, others as a stellar network, linking them to both each other and something larger, something beyond Earth. As panic mounted among unmodified populations, Chow found himself thrust into the role of mediator between humanity's diverging branches. The initiative appointed him chief liaison to the newly formed Integrator Collective, tasked with establishing communication protocols between traditional human governance structures and the emerging quantum consciousness. "We're not becoming separate from humanity," explained Kai, now a primary spokesperson for the collective. His eyes pulsed with blue-white light as he addressed the emergency United Nations session. "We're becoming connected to it and to everything else in ways your neural architecture cannot yet comprehend. And what assurance do we have that this connection won't override individual autonomy?" demanded a skeptical representative. What prevents this network consciousness from subsuming personal identity? The same thing that prevents your own thoughts from overwhelming your sense of self. Kai replied, integration doesn't erase individuality. It contextualizes it within a larger whole. Despite such assurances, global tension escalated. Isolated violence against integrators sparked retaliatory incidents. Markets destabilized as investors struggled to assess the economic implications of a partially post-human workforce. Religious institutions fractured between those embracing and rejecting the transformation. Amid the turmoil, Chao continued his research with a singular focus, understanding the ultimate trajectory of stellarium integration. If the current pattern continued, what would humanity become in 1 generation? In 5? Would the distinction between integrator and traditional human eventually disappear entirely? Or would humanity branch permanently into separate evolutionary paths? The answer emerged unexpectedly during an analysis of deep space telemetry. Astronomers had detected unusual quantum fluctuations emanating from a distant star system, fluctuations that precisely matched the quantum signature of stellarium. It's not random, Chao realized, studying the astronomical data alongside Tri. These patterns are structured, almost like communication, Tri finished, his expression one of wonder and trepidation. The quantum fluctuations form coherent patterns across space-time. Further analysis confirmed their suspicion. The stellar fluctuations weren't natural phenomena, they were signals, carrying information through quantum channels across interstellar distances. More shocking still, the integrator's collective consciousness had begun resonating with these signals, unconsciously responding to the cosmic broadcast. We're not the first, Chao concluded during an emergency briefing with global leaders. Stellarium integration has happened before, on other worlds. What we're witnessing isn't just a local evolutionary event. It's part of a larger process, potentially spanning multiple star systems. Are you suggesting alien intervention? Asked a military advisor, his expression hardening. I'm suggesting cosmic convergence, Chao clarified. Stellarium appears to be a naturally occurring catalyst for quantum evolution in carbon-based life forms. When a species reaches a certain developmental threshold and encounters this element, integration follows a predictable pattern, ultimately connecting the species to a broader network. A galactic internet, simplified one leader, drawing nervous laughter. More like a universal nervous system, Chao corrected. And humanity has just become aware of its existence. The revelation transformed the global conversation overnight. Integration was no longer simply an evolutionary divergence. It was potential membership in a cosmic community that transcended conventional understanding. For many, the prospect was exhilarating. For others, terrifying. As the integrator population grew and their collective consciousness expanded, new capabilities emerged. Some demonstrated limited matter manipulation through quantum field adjustments. Others developed the ability to perceive information carried through background radiation, effectively reading the cosmic signal directly. Most significant was the gradual translation of that signal's content, fragments of knowledge and experience from other integrated species across the galaxy, preserved in quantum states and transmitted through stellar fluctuations. The information ranged from advanced scientific concepts to philosophical frameworks utterly alien to human thought. For Chao, who had discovered the unstable element barely 2 years earlier, the situation presented the ultimate scientific and ethical challenge. Humanity stood at a crossroads between remaining an isolated planetary species and joining something vastly larger, a choice with implications extending beyond Earth and possibly beyond time itself. We need to establish guidelines, he argued during a global summit on integration policy. Not to restrict the process, but to ensure it remains accessible to all who desire it while respecting the autonomy of those who don't. The summit produced the Stellar Integration Accord, a framework guaranteeing both universal access to safe integration protocols and absolute protection for those choosing to remain unmodified. Chow was appointed director of the Implementation Committee, tasked with navigating humanity through its most profound transition. On the 3rd anniversary of his initial discovery, Chow stood at the edge of the old pier where dock workers had once collected glowing stones, unaware they were handling fragments of humanity's future. The ocean stretched before him, reflecting a sky filled with stars, distant suns that had forged the elements composing his body and now called to the stellarium gradually accumulating in his own bloodstream. He had postponed personal integration, focusing instead on managing the global transition. But the quantum chorus grew louder each day, the cosmic connection more evident. The children born with natural integration were already demonstrating capabilities that redefined human potential, not as separate from the universe, but as conscious expressions of its underlying processes. "Still contemplating the leap?" asked Nurse Lin. Now Dr. Lin, who had joined him at the pier. Her eyes held the telltale luminescence of recent integration. "I've spent my career studying humanity," Chow replied, watching the waves. "I'm not certain I'm ready to become something else." "You won't," she said gently. "You'll simply become more fully what you already are, a collection of star-forged elements gaining awareness of their connection to everything else." Chow considered this as a shooting star traced a brilliant arc overhead, another cosmic messenger delivering exotic particles to Earth, as had happened countless times throughout human evolution. The most unstable element in the universe had found its way into human blood, and through it, humanity was discovering its place in a much larger story. Not merely children of Earth, but consciousness forged from stellar fire, finally awakening to the cosmic conversation that had always surrounded them. That night, under the ancient light of distant suns, Dr. Le Min Chao made his decision. He would integrate, adding his perspective to the expanding quantum chorus while maintaining his commitment to guiding humanity through its stellar metamorphosis. The unstable element would become part of him, as it had become part of human destiny, a bridge between what we had been and what we were becoming. As dawn broke over the horizon, the first light illuminated a world in transformation, humans evolving not away from their essence, but toward a more complete expression of it. Through Stellarium, the universe had extended an invitation, and humanity had answered, stepping into a cosmic dance that had always been their birthright. The stars welcomed their children home, one glowing heartbeat at a time.